For gaming, your display is your window into the virtual world, so it's pretty important to use a good one. In this video, I want to walk you through the age-old debate: TV or monitor. There are pros and cons to both, so coupled with my rather thorough testing with my very own open source response time tool, let me walk you through which is for you. For arguably most people, TVs have a bunch of obvious advantages. The size, and the fact you probably or almost certainly already own one, are probably the big two. For most people, that makes it the obvious choice. Just hook up a console or a PC, hell even something like an Nvidia Shield, and stream your games, whatever works, and just kick back on the couch and enjoy. The size helps with that too, generally being in the 50 to 60 inch range these days. Admittedly, you do tend to sit quite far from them, so that size doesn't often engulf your vision, but it's hard to argue that it isn't an enjoyable place to be. The biggest downside to TVs as gaming displays is that they aren't built for gaming. Especially if you didn't buy your TV with gaming in mind, or you just didn't spend too much on it anyway, there's a very good chance your TV is pretty naff for all of the usual gaming related metrics. Things like response times, which describe how fast the pixels can change color, and input lag, which describes how long an input takes to show up. Some TVs do have a game mode that can help to some degree with this, and newer TVs in particular, especially the higher end selection, do tend to have some pretty impressive game modes. But odds are, your TV is more like mine. I have a Hisense 55-inch 4K TV that was around £300, and actually a newer version that's almost identical is still available for basically the same price, but with more, frankly, annoying smarts inside. So how does this budget TV fare? Not well. Looking at the response time results, you'll notice all that red, the sea of red. It's pretty bad, with highs of 38 milliseconds. That is just painfully slow. Interestingly though, 63% of the transitions did fit within the fairly long 16.7 millisecond refresh rate window, meaning there shouldn't be too much ghosting on screen. And actually, looking at the high-speed footage, we can see that that is the case. There's very little ghosting. That's old frames still on screen while the newest frame is on screen at the same time. Although it is clear just how slow the panel is when you see it, how long it takes for a full frame time to actually transition between two frames. It's pretty slow, pretty sluggish, and that means in fast motion it's going to be on the smeary side. This does mean that you end up with a less than ideal experience for sure. By comparison, an equivalently priced gaming monitor like this Asus XG27ACS fares much, much better, with an average response time somewhere around 4 milliseconds, and with 87% of the transitions falling within the much, much shorter refresh rate window of just 5.6 milliseconds. That means motion on the monitor is considerably smoother and a lot sharper too, thanks to the panel's ability to actually draw new frames at a good pace. The refresh rate difference is also something to keep in mind. While some newer and often higher end TVs can offer 120Hz modes, gaming monitors tend to start from 144Hz, and depending on your budget and preferences, they go up to 540Hz these days. Really 160Hz, 180Hz like this one, or maybe 240Hz is really all most people might want or need, but at least you have the option. Odds are though, your TV is 60Hz like mine is, which means that motion is just even more stilted and blurry, at least to your eye. The faster the refresh rate, the smoother your experience is, and the sharper the image will look, especially in motion. For more competitive games, say like COD, Siege, or even Fortnite, that is likely to be a pretty big deal. For more casual games, or like platformers, simulation games, even including racing games, it isn't quite as important, although it's still a massive benefit. The other, potentially even more key con for TVs is the input lag. That can make playing games actively difficult. You press a button and it takes an age for it to then show you that action on screen. It makes timing actions difficult. I know this because we used to play Overcooked on my TV and I would regularly end up dropping food, falling off the map, or missing throws, all because the TV took too long to show me those new frames. Now, a lot of TVs, in fact including mine, do have game modes, and from my testing, it does actually seem to help. With no game mode enabled, OSRTT reckons you'll get around 55.6 milliseconds of on-display latency, which is dreadful. With game mode on, that does drop to just 39 milliseconds, which is still dreadful. For context, this Asus monitor takes on average just 3 milliseconds to show you an input, which is right in line with almost all of the other gaming monitors that I've tested. And bear in mind that these figures are from OSRTT's very isolated test. Add in things like the latency from a controller, from a console, and from the game itself, and you're likely north of 100 milliseconds on my TV, even with game mode enabled. That, it is worth noting that some TVs do have frankly amazing game modes that don't add nearly as much latency as mine does, and if you are buying a TV with gaming in mind, finding one with a good game mode is highly recommended. But if you already have a TV, well, at least you're going to be well informed as to how bad it probably is. Now, these figures themselves don't say what it's actually like to game on the TV, at least not fully. For the right kind of game, Helldivers 2 is a personal favourite, it's still a perfectly decent gaming experience. It's pretty easy to notice the added latency, which makes aiming and even just like moving or picking up samples or ammo more difficult, but it's still a great time. The big screen, comfy sofa, and often much better sound system makes it really enjoyable. For a more competitive game like Siege, well, it isn't quite as fun. The mix of slow response times, slow refresh rates, and slow input lag get in the way a fair bit more than they do in a more relaxed game. For that, I would much rather be playing on a monitor. That feels smooth, fast, and responsive. It's much easier to hit targets, aim, move, just everything is easier. The monitor gets out your way, or I suppose gets in your way an awful lot less. There are a few other ways that, in general, monitors make for a better gaming experience. One of those is adaptive sync, also known as variable refresh rate, FreeSync, or G-Sync. Some TVs do support adaptive sync over HDMI, but it's pretty rare, at least right now. Monitors, on the other hand, almost always support one of the forms of VRR. It's pretty rare to find a gaming monitor that doesn't support adaptive sync these days. The benefit of adaptive sync is that the monitor only refreshes when your graphics card has finished drawing a new frame. That's important because otherwise you get what's called tearing. Basically, you get parts of half-drawn frames on screen at the same time that are drawn at different times, and especially with fast motion, it's just painfully obvious and really uncomfortable. Of course, monitors too have their own drawbacks. You're much more likely to be buying one specifically for gaming rather than already having a TV, and they're only smart or as smart as the devices that you're connecting them to. Now, that might be a good thing. You can just as easily watch movies on Netflix or videos like this one on YouTube on a PC as you can on a TV, arguably easier in fact, but it's likely to be a more solo experience. It's also pretty likely smaller, and so needs a dedicated space, normally a desk, to use it. Again, that might not be a problem for you, but compared to the existing space you likely already have for a TV and a couch, it's a factor to consider. Realistically, which of these works best for you depends on your circumstances. Do you have a great TV already and just want to kick back and have some fun playing some games? Great, enjoy. Do you want to like sweat real hard on COD? Well, get a monitor. Want to have your own space for everything from gaming to media? Well, again, you probably want a monitor. Oh, and if you're interested, the monitors that I've tested have been just as, if not more, color accurate, color rich, and just as bright. Like, my Hisense TV hits 380 nits at most, whereas this Asus monitor hits 450 nits. It's also a lot more uniform. The one thing that filming my TV has made clear is just how bad my TV actually looks for uniformity. I mean, here is what the Spider X2 reckons. Up to 26% less lights on the edges. That's 100 nits less on the corners, which is frankly terrible. Anyway, that's a look at why you might want to game on a TV, or why a monitor might be a better fit. Of course, I would love to hear what you think in the comments down below, and if you want to see more videos like this one, more monitor reviews, guides, and a load of other stuff, then feel free to check out that subscribe button and turn on the bell notification icon. You can also check out plenty of other videos on the end cards, including a review of this very monitor, or if you're interested in being able to test stuff like this yourself, you can pick up one of my open source response time tools, the new Pro CS version, at osrtt.com. I make them right here at home and ship them out, validate them, all that sort of stuff, so feel free to take a look. Otherwise, thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed it, we'll see you all in the next video.